Talk.
Like, I think when we talk about sacred sexuality, it's a bit like what you're talking about, where every, even in our spiritual path, like when we start to see things more spiritual and we start to develop this sacredness towards everything, towards life, towards, people, towards animals, towards everything, towards nature, we start to become more and more connected. And a big aspect of that is, of course, our sexuality, right? Because that's our main energy force. That's what brought us here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what keeps us alive. So we start to relate in a more sacred way to our own sexuality and to our shared experiences. And I think the level of consciousness of a being can really um, like expand, all it can expand all areas of our lives. And of course, the part of sacred sexuality is an important aspect of that. And it's not just for us, but it's like our soul expanding, and then we meet another soul that is expanding, and then we become one, right? That's like the main thing for me in sacred sexuality, that it's not just bodies. Our bodies are the temple or the vehicle, but in the end we sort of merge into one soul and one communion with God. So it's the most intimate thing that we can share with another human being in all of our experience, because we literally merge, and that's the sacred marriage. We just become one. And it's one of the most powerful energies. So usually when like the baby is conceived, it's like, if I could see it the way that I've experienced and seen it, is it's like a lightning striking. It's not like a little angel falls down. It's like whoa, it's like yeah, and it just comes in with all the strength and all the power into the body. And it's a life-changing experience, especially if you're living it consciously and sacredly. And that's a difference, like people can get pregnant all the time with whoever, but the point of having this consciousness and learning about sacred sexuality is that you can actually do this all by being conscious. And I think part of what you're describing is your desire to have that really conscious experience, and to be present when it's happening. And I think that comes, of course, from your perspective of life and who you are as a soul and what you're here to do. But it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And I feel how we relate. I mean, again, because it's our sexual energy is our life force energy, and I think it, like we were saying, is how we relate to everything.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the teachings are about, if you see like the ancient teachings of sacred sexuality, it has to do with bringing the energy upward, right? From the lower, from the base of the spine, bringing it up into the higher chakras. And there are different ways of dealing with that and different purposes, and so many different schools of teaching, from Tantra and Tibetan Buddhism, and like new schools were more like open, and Osho had like a huge following. There's also like the shamanic approach. For me, one of the most important things with that, and it's part of what you were saying, is the recognition and the healing of the divine feminine in this. Because the divine feminine had been and has been abused so much, and especially also sexually, especially in the body temple, that any woman that is open to have that experience with a man, she's doing it from a place of like her heart and offering, and the safety that that the masculine can provide is essential for her
Yes.
experience, but also for her to start healing the wounds, because the wounds are stored in our wombs. We have the memory of all the lifetimes, of all the things that happen. It's alive and it's there. So that's why many times, when women, after women have orgasms, they will, some will, for example, cry.
Yeah.
Some will like laugh and everything, but there's also a part of crying where it's just that this deep, deep healing is occurring after having an exchange with the masculine where the feminine can feel safe and
Hmm.
protected and loved and nurtured, you know?
It's
Yeah.
by far one of the most sacred things of our humanness and has been the most abused and distorted and like capitalized on. It's been farmed like a
Mm-hmm.
piece of meat. The womb, the
Yeah.
most sacred organ of humanity. It's
Mm.
crazy. And that
Yeah.
just that is kind of like is a reflection of like of so many things.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it like you said, I think you said in our last interview is that it is the most psychic part of humans. And again, like the woman's intuition, the woman's it's where so much is received.
Yeah.
um it's a portal too, portal. And it's
Mm.
not just a portal for like of course, like babies and birth, but it's a portal for everything we can imagine to come through, which could be good or bad. And so
Yeah.
uh and going back to what you were saying about the energy and the sacredness is how we have been taught, or at least like we've been hooked on this very like animalistic kind of expression of the sex. It's a beautiful technology that does so many things, like of course procreation, I mean pleasure, but it's an amazing manifestation tool as well. It's
Mm.
an amazing way to like connect and deepen ourselves. And even what you were saying about like of it going through our body and releasing is that I know from the male sect is that like there's so much waste because of like so much of like the porn and everything is just like there's just this, it's like this milking of our sacred energy that
Yeah.
we think is the only way for it's like we arise, the only way what we do with it is it just goes out of our body like into the drain. And so it's kind of interesting because we're not taught, we don't think that we so many men think orgasm and ejaculation are the same thing.
Mm.
They're not intrinsic, they happen together. But like, and even I even remember, this was in my early 20s, I remember a guy was telling me, he goes, men can't have orgasms. This is just like, was it, I don't know, it was like years ago and we were young and dumb, but it was just the fact that that can even be questioned as someone
Mm.
who themselves is past puberty. This again
Yeah.
shows you that like that should be common knowledge that that's not true. And
Mm.
it's really interesting. And just how sex has been marketed and sold to us is interesting. Like I will say for myself and my brothers is this is going to be conducive in relationships with women, is like we do not need to ejaculate every sexual encounter.
Mm.
We think like, as like most sexual encounters is like like the man and the woman get together, whether it's like a short term, long term, whatever, and the woman like helps the man ejaculate, and then she might not even have anything or feel anything, but like she gets that intimacy though. She gets that, or she gets that like pleasure or that arousal of like turning him on or whatever. And it's just like it's so imbalanced, and I feel like it's like she's not in her
Yeah.
power because she's actually not charged by her sexual energy of having orgasm. He just just like spews his like his energy. So I
Yeah.
always feel like the future of this is the man ejaculating less and the woman orgasming more, which would like make it a beautiful thing together. Because like I mean, again, like when men can discover they can have orgasms without like ejaculating, that's gonna be a whole big thing. And then
Yeah.
especially if we took our time to like give the woman what she needed, like the lucrative like woman orgasm, that's so, again, that's so
Yeah.
distorted, the fact that that's like known unknown to us. And it's just I like it's going to, and again like each, I see that every time, especially I see it more for like women. Each time a woman has like an orgasm, it's like breaking through another layer of healing. Sex is a huge, multi-layered healing experience, for many things. But
Hmm.
I just see like many women, like when they have an orgasm, they break through like a glass ceiling to another layer of their power, their energy, their, you know, th stuff, and it's interesting.
Yeah. I think, one of the most important things is for because of this absence of teachings, and especially in the masculine community, so many men don't even know their own bodies and
Yeah.
don't and it's not their fault. There's
Hmm.
little guidance as to, you know unless you're put on a sacred path since you're very young, and you go learn with the yogis, or you study in a special like school of knowledge. But other than that, like in the Western world, we have been disconnected from all these rites of passages, all these rituals, and even the understanding of what a man is in this world, and
Hmm.
what his energy is, what his qualities are, what his body is, and how to um, like I have experienced many times that men don't even know how their own bodies work, because there's also this blockage of opening up, and being vulnerable. And on the other side of that is like the fast, like sex and encounters and whatever. But those encounters are only made on a superficial level, which is just
Hmm.
the physical level. They don't go beyond that. So it's like a machine. And then the breaking point, or the healing that could happen if there was vulnerability, and if there was like a true giving and receiving, it doesn't happen. So then men get addicted to it, but in a way of like
And they get
anything
us hooked
else.
on that
Like,
orgasm, like it's that dopamine
yeah, like
addiction. Yeah.
exactly, just dopamine. And there are lots of myths, and there are lots of like, I think, disinformation, even of like what men think that women want.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
there
I
are
can tell you, just
some,
I'm sorry, just I've seen articles
yeah,
written by men that I'm just like, yuck. Like men about women, and it's coming from like the most like, it would be like the jerk at the bar writing this stuff. Like it,
yeah.
yeah.
And unfortunately, there are a lot of men who fall into that trap, and fall into that trap of this like macho masculinity, like this, like, yeah, the bad boy thing, whatever. But it's really just a mask to hide all the shame and the guilt and the fear. And, I've seen that men are more like self-conscious in during the sexual uh,
Hmm.
encounters, because they feel like they have to perform in a certain way according to certain
Hmm.
ideas and things. Whereas with conscious man, we understand that, both parties understand that it's a flow of energy, and that it's an honoring of the other in the body, but also in the mind, in the emotional, and in the soul. So
Hmm.
when you come into an encounter with a conscious being, no matter what happens, it's 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 uh it's starting from a sacred place, and from a place of offering to one another. And it's not about
Nice.
who is going to give me what, and I want this from the other. It's an offering, and from that offering, the energies start to do what they need to do, and there's a flow.
Hmm.
For me, like conscious sex, or having conscious sexuality, it's like having a trance meditation. It's coming into a trance, through the physical, and starting to go into higher and higher levels of consciousness, where in the end the bodies melt and disappear, and you're just consciousness, you're just light, and you merge with the divine. Like for me, that's what sacred marriage is. That's like the holy communion. And what it creates is divine love. And divine love can be anything that you want to create. It can expand your capacity and your partner's capacity to create anything, but also, of course, to birth a child that is a result of divine love. So it's one of the highest energies that we can possibly experience. but there's very little information as to how to do that. And especially, I think, because the feminine, we have the womb, we have more of this unconscious, like memory, and we have these, this connection to our womb, to our body. Of course, many of us have also been disconnected because of many different experiences, and part of it is for both of us, the feminine and masculine, to heal those wounds that are blocking us from experiencing ourselves, from getting to know our bodies, and from being able to go into those higher states of consciousness, which is very similar to when we start meditating. And there's so much stuff coming up, and then you continue and you start to purify, Same thing with our sexual energy. We need to purify all the trauma, all the pain. For men, it's usually more the guilt and the shame and the
Yeah.
the inability to feel or to be vulnerable and to be seen. Mhm. And for the feminine, usually it's also like, it can also be shame, but it's more like her recognizing herself and reconnecting to the body. Because most women who have suffered any kind of abuse, the tendency is the same, is to shut down,
Mm.
and feel scared, to even open their own bodies. So that's also why self practice and self discovery and learning the teachings and looking for knowledge is so important, so that we can demystify and release all the conditioning that we have received from in our entire lifetimes,
Yeah.
from this and other lifetimes as well.
I know that when you were saying about what you can make with the union more than just a baby, is that, I mean, we do call it making love for a reason. There is such
Mhm.
creation in the bonding in these things because the masculine, I think you said this in one of your meditations, is I want to expand upon it, is like the masculine carries seed, like seeds for union, but he carries seeds for so many other things in himself and like the shared relationship. And I feel that, well, like it's not just like we carry seeds for like a baby and like, or just like for love or pleasure, but we carry seeds for everything in our lives to be created. And this kind of goes with like the manifest, use it as a manifestational tool, but just even if we weren't like actively using it as a manifestation tool, just the masson carries so many seed codes for so many things, and that
Yeah.
it requires the feminine to grow that. And even
Mhm.
if it's like not with her, she carries the soil or the growing for the union, for the relationship itself. If any of my brothers are like me, and actually I do know, is that we have like this aching like need and even just like seed that we're carrying that to be planted. And so we could like be ready to build our kingdom, to be like, having at least like the general formula foundation within that seed. But it's up to us to kind of like take that seed and first start to germinate it, to start, the planning, to start like whatever it is that is our home within ourselves. And then in these relationships, give it to the proper, give it to the proper woman or receiver who can take that and fertilize it and grow with each other. And I feel that so many men are waiting, are just like doing nothing and waiting for their queen before they even start to build their kingdom. And then I know, and I feel that many women are waiting for a king with a fully established kingdom to then tack on. I feel like it needs to be a more of a co-creative process, because and it's not because a man is so much like a farmer. So much of the man is like the warrior. How we want to go home, we want to like, put our sword down and like bury ourselves in our woman. But when we come home, we have this. We want like, to the man, the women are like this, a farm, a land. Like we're like a farmer that's like the land in this analogy, where we care about it enough, we tend to it, we till it, we take care, we fend off, coyotes or rabbits or whatever that's going to like come like harm the
Yeah.
harvest of the crops, everything. And with our love, with our nurturance, with our intentions of the things that we want to grow, I mean, even for ourselves, that the woman can take that and bear such fruits of that better than we could like do it on our own. And this isn't to be like
Mm.
codependent. This is an interdependence in a union, in a partnership. So, but again, it kind of, to my brothers, I would say like I feel we're going through an initiation right now currently, because so we can germinate that seed that we want to just like have expanded. Like I think we haven't really seen the divine we haven't seen the divine masculine yet. That's coming. That's a major big thing that's coming here in pretty soon. And
Yeah.
so uh the feminine can take that and grow that.
Yeah. I feel like part of what you're saying, and I think it's also a very important part for both parties is to, the masculine, and again, we're not talking about gender here, right? But like
Yes.
the masculine energy, like, and even if we were talking about like the masculine essence in everyone, like part of that for me and what you were saying about germinating is we need to have a purpose. Like the masculine is essentially the energy that gives. And it's not just meant to give to the feminine, but it's meant to give to this world. What are you
Yes.
offering to this world? What is your divine purpose? Are you walking your path towards your divine purpose, towards self love, towards self awareness? Like, I think that's the most important thing that is like, I am the flame and I'm tending to my own flame. And of course, finding a feminine who has been doing the same, who's also living in the divine purpose. Because like what you said, we were told all these myths and stories like, oh, this person's going to save you, and oh, I want this other person to save me, and then everything. But it's not true. We're here, we're so much more than
Hmm.
what we think, and we have a divine purpose, we have a divine mission. It doesn't matter how big or small, it doesn't matter what you do, but as long as you have that direction and you say, I have a purpose to be on this earth, and if I'm not even sure about what it is, I'm going to find out. And that can be your purpose every day. Get to know yourself, cultivate yourself, get to know your own body. That there are so many men and women who are nowadays living completely disconnected from their bodies,
Hmm.
from their spiritual self. Like if you want to live just in the 3D right now, it's very easy. And you have all the technology and you don't even have to go outside. You don't even have to meet anyone. You can have a completely like
Put on a VR
holographic
headset.
life.
Yeah, just
Yeah, and not connect and
plug it in the Matrix.
disconnect from your emotions, exactly, and disconnect and disassociate. And that disassociation is something that is very dangerous, I feel, because the more it happens, the less connection we have to our soul, to the primal guide of our life, and to our heart. If we put it in an emotional sense, the more we protect ourselves and the more we guard ourselves from love, from being vulnerable, from being seen, the more disconnected we become. And then there comes a moment where it's, even if you meet the love of your life, if you're disconnected, you're not going to see it, you're
Hmm.
not going to feel it, and you're not going to let the other person give or receive, because you are not giving and receiving to the world. You're just holding back and protecting yourself. And that's the survival energy that
Yeah.
we all have to a certain degree. But that's something that we need to progress out of, heal our trauma, heal our pain, address the wounds, and address everything that is keeping us in that survival mode. Because in survival, you're not thinking about, you know, having a sacred sexual experience. In survival, you're thinking about, am I going to die or live today? And sadly, that's how the brain of
Yeah.
many people is working nowadays. So there is no room for deep connection. There is no room for vulnerability. There is no room for exploration. There is no room for, even for taking care of their own bodies and
Yeah.
minds and souls and hearts and seeing what's there. So I think that self-recognition and the recognition of your purpose is the first thing. And upon that, it's like you say, we build our own kingdoms and queendoms. And then when you meet another, you don't see it as a prey or as an attacker or as, someone who's going to save me, because I already saved myself. I'm
Yeah.
safe. I feel safe. I know what I want. I'm integrated in my body, and I can discern, is this the right partner for me or not? You know? And of course, we will have experiences that are meant to be, and soulmates and twin flame and everything that we have to work with. But it's all for us to get to a place of self love and self illumination, knowing that we don't need the light from outside, but we can share it and reflect it with a person who is in the same level of consciousness that we are,
Hmm.
if we wish to.
Two holes making a greater whole.
Exactly.
And even what you were saying is, it's so what I so and even back what I was saying, it's not just like so the relationships we had. It's not just the energy that is cultivated. Is not just for yourself not just a relationship you have with another. It's using this energy, using this power to expand to other things too, like that,
Mhm.
like especially like going back to the transmuting of that, sexual energy again. A lot of it is just only used for sexual encounters or just purging or getting out, but you can use that for creative force for anything. It is like the core energy. I know.
Yeah.
I know so many healers have like a very strong sexual energy because they're tapped into that creative God, goddess, source energy, which is healing energy, which is creative energy, which is life energy. It's the pure essence of it. And we
Mhm.
all are tapped into that. And we can use that sexual energy, that driving life force energy, and we can transmute it into everything. We can like channel that energy, like pipe it through into other things of our life to power that. And again, like live our purpose.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, if you see like artists, like you can see it in healers and masters and spiritual beings. You can feel their presence. You can feel that they have a bigger energy. They have like a bigger aura. They occupy more space in the room, but not in a way that is like pushy
Yeah.
or forceful, but in a way that just feels like they carry this wave of peace within them because their channels, their energy bodies, they're able to hold so much light.
Mm.
And you know, even in sexual encounters, like if both of the partners would meditate and come to that state of expansion even before engaging in like the sexual act itself, the orgasms are way more expansive and the experience is completely different. So we are the channels of that energy. Like even artists, the artists are very sexual beings, but because
Look at
they're also
Picasso. Like
channels. Yeah.
many fine
And
artists are very sexual individuals. Even like geniuses like Albert
yes,
Einstein himself too, because it's that
yeah,
source energy that they're holding.
yeah. And it's that connection and that practice of being a channel. Because when you are downloading, codes, formulas, divine wisdom, when you're downloading what you're going to paint, if it's, of course, there are different types of artists, but if it's an artist that goes into, like a higher state or a trance state to receive what they're going to paint, that's a bit how I did it, when I'm also a painter. So for me, the experience is the same. You're channeling this energy, and it's such force. Like it's literally, you give it back, you give that explosion of energy back, and it sort of amplifies whatever you create, but it also amplifies within you every time you channel it.
Oh,
So our sexual energy is something like is also the thing that has been most preyed upon and harnessed, and different religion and persecuted, and the feminine herself, because she is a symbol of that creative force.
Hmm.
She is the epitome of the sexual energy. She embodies everything, the sensual, the sexual, and that's why she has also been like a prey to the like lower masculine energies and lower feminine energies, um, because there's this like wish to possess the light,
Yeah.
instead of, hey, I am the light too. I can be the light and we can meet as light. I don't need to possess anyone or anything. I don't need to possess another being for me to connect to that. So we need to be, as conscious beings, we need to be self-sourcing. We need to have our own
Mm.
connection to God, our own connection to our lives, our own, connection to the world, so that when we meet another, we don't plug into them and try to possess them. And now you're not
Hmm.
going to go anywhere, and we're going to get married, and you're going to be at home like all the time or whatever. Those are all
You're
these
mine.
conditionings. Yeah, you're mine, and no, and it doesn't mean that there can't be like beautiful, different types of relationships and monogamous relationships or whatever, but there is a different energy. We're coming from devotion and from an offering of, this is who I am, this is what I'm offering you, and the other person doing the same willingly, and both starting to work with that energy together, rather than, I'm here and I want this from you, and you give me that. And then, if you don't do that, I don't love you anymore. you know,
Condition. Very condition
condition.
based.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of work to do, and a lot of things that are going to change as we, you know, become more conscious. But also part of it is the very like physical part, and there are many great books, for men's sexuality. I have studied and learned a lot from both, because I always like to learn the feminine and the masculine, because for me it has everything, it's just complementary, and it doesn't matter in what body I am in this lifetime. For me, it's still important to have both, left and right hemisphere. It's always, the complementary aspects, and learning that for both, it can really help to expand both of your experiences, and to also learn together, if you're in a partnership. And if not, then also by yourself.
Yeah.
There are many people who are even already in established partnerships or marriages. And I did this sacred sexuality course, and I remember couples saying to me like, wow, like we reignited, something we thought we had
Mm.
lost. And like we didn't know that we can do this that way. And there's a lot of lack of information, that if we just had the knowledge, we could completely shift our realities. And the knowledge is out there. It's also just a matter of us, wanting to dive deep into ourselves and go into that self-learning journey, and share the knowledge, share what we find.
I think it's hilarious. I'm sure like the star races and the aliens are just like humanity has been gifted with this beautiful technology of love and creation, and we've just like turned it, we've like weaponized it and like commoditized it. And like I don't know, to me I look at like war and I'm like that makes sense, but to see the things that we've done with like sexuality and relationships, I'm just like what come on. What are we doing,
Yeah,
guys? Like
yeah, yeah.
and it's wild. And that's the cool thing is we all have that. We all have that. It's not that we have to go anywhere. It's all already within us. And
Mm,
and probably great effort to keep us ignorant of that too,
mm,
because once we set our it's like once we set ourselves free, we all become the most powerful individual selves we could ever be. It's all like all the seeds, all the codes are already within us.
mm.
Like it's already
Yeah.
there.
We have to be courageous to go and look into that. And there are many people in this world that they're still not ready to do the
Mm.
heavy lifting, to go into their shadows, to address their traumas, to, I've had many, encounters with masculine who will just see me and like fear the goddess in me and go run
Mm,
away like crazy. I mean, the goddess, the feminine energy. Why? Because there's still this, it's like this lack of growth from the child, from the human boy to maturity, to
yeah.
the man, and what a man is and what he stands for. And part of that, and part of what we're learning in this masculine society, because it's still a masculine society, it
Mm,
has been, and for so many thousands of years it was only masculine. The
yeah.
feminine was completely disregarded. We were less than dogs, so our whole
You're a tool,
psyche
is
and
what you were.
consciousness, yeah, it has been shifting, but it has to shift, like the wound of the divine feminine, or the wound of the feminine, has to be healed within the feminine and within the masculine,
Yeah.
because the masculine have suffered from this as well, from not being able to be vulnerable, to express their emotions, like you can cry if you're a man and all these things. And it sounds funny, but I've never seen my father cry in my
Hmm.
life. And he's a completely different generation, but I don't think I'll see him, like, and many friends of mine, and especially people who come from other countries, or, different places, there are all of these like brain, I disappeared there for a minute. There are like all
It freaked
these
me out. I thought you were like abducted. They're like, she's saying too much. Pull her out of there.
or disappeared. So they have all this conditioning, and we can't get rid of conditioning or anything unless we see it. So we need consciousness. So it's a it's a slow process, and thank God, there are men like you, and there are other, men and masculine who are doing the work. But it's hard work, and it's also hard work for the feminine to heal all those wounds from abuse, from neglect, from abandonment, from, sexual abuse. It's very, very hard. If you think, like I always say to friends, like, if you think that the same body that was abused is gently opening to you, like the amount of strength and work and power that a feminine needs to do, especially if she has been abused, to be able to even open herself and trust the masculine again. It's crazy. And
Yeah.
many men, they think, oh yeah, like it's just women and it's just sex, and like just use them. They're like flowers, and we go and pick here and pick there and whatever. But it's not that,
Yeah, the more rebel.
like yeah, like opening the body for a woman is very difficult, and it's
Mm.
especially if you have had trauma, and it's a sacred act,
That's
and
exactly what I
yeah.
tell. That's like a big thing that I would tell my brothers is that like a woman's yes is super sacred. I mean, of course, and their no. Like it's
Yeah.
body language, like especially like in like partnering and everything. I mean, this is very much a no because like that's her central channel of like the weak spots that could be taken advantage and kill her. Like look right there, and then
Mm.
be and then like especially if you're I mean, getting intimate with a woman, there is that surrender where she puts her chin up, and that's like that is a sacred yes. Like, and when she
Mhm.
exposes and is ready to receive, so it's like
Yeah.
it's a woman's no and yes or permission is super super sacred.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like all the work that it got for her to go to that place too. And if men were living sexuality in a more intimate and vulnerable way, there would also be that preparation from the men. Like, because like I know that there's, this part of like the man being like the womanizer and going from one woman to another, one woman to another. But in the end, that's also the wound of the mother. Like that's the
Hmm.
child, the boy that didn't have the attention or was neglected or abandoned by the mother. So he has to go and look for that motherly energy in all these different women. and he's acting from a wound, and a wound perpetuates another wound. So
It just
there's
breeds
this
more wounds.
exactly, and that's where we see that lack of maturity.
Infectious.
Like if I know that a person is, you know, just going around, or especially, you know, men, we hear that a lot, but also women, if they're doing that, it's because there is a big wound, and it
Hmm.
can become almost like a sickness. It can become an addiction. So it's really something that needs to be worked on, and and really looked at and released. Like, why am I doing this, you know? And in the societal view or whatever, maybe it's not even frowned upon. It's like, oh well, yeah, it's normal, you know, or like,
Hmm.
you know, that's what a lot of men do. But in reality, it's a wound, and it's a wound with a mother, especially. And of course, also it can be the wound with the father, where the father was absent. So the boy never had like a safe male model. So he didn't develop that capacity to, okay, what does a man do, and what does it mean to be a man,
Yeah.
and how does a true man treat women? How does it regard feminine in general, but also his own inner feminine, which is part of what we all need to integrate. And divine feminine's the same. We have to deal with our mother and our father wound. And if we don't deal with that father wound, we create patterns of repetition, of abandon, of neglect. Usually it's the absent father for the feminine. It's like one of the most common, or the
Yeah.
abusive father as well. So
Being
there
abandoned
is
by
a,
the masculine, you can leave. He's not there for her to protect her. She's vulnerable for attack
yes,
and to be taken advantage of. Yeah.
yes. And sometimes even just disregarded, you know, because also as feminine, since we're little girls or whatever, we're meant to be like, there's this pressure to be nice, or to be good, or to be perfect, or to
Smile.
be,
Yeah.
yeah. And then when we come into the divine feminine, into our awakening, it's like, no, like I'm a powerful being. I am not just
Mm.
a little girl who's supposed to behave in certain ways. I'm actually a divine being. I'm a powerful being. I create and I manifest my reality, and I can make myself feel safe, regardless of how I was brought up, regardless of the trauma I experienced. We have to take that power back to us. And the same for the masculine. If they were abandoned, neglected, if they couldn't show their emotions, or if they were, you know, like beaten up if they cried or whatever, we
Mm.
need to take that power back and say, no, I can. And as an adult now that I am, I can have room and space for all my emotions and for expressing how I feel, and to do it in a way that is supportive for me and for my partner, you know? But we need to accept ourselves as a whole. We can't just choose like, oh, I like this part of me, and this, I'm just going to hide it and then put it down
Yeah.
there. No, like if you're wild, you're wild. If you scream, you scream, and you know, it doesn't mean that you have to do that, you know, to other people, but in your healing process, everything is allowed, and there are always healthy ways of expressing any emotion. Emotions are not the problem. It's our
Mm.
capacity to be vulnerable. And in relationship, if there's no intimacy, if there's no vulnerability, there's no intimacy. And if there's no intimacy, there's no communion, and there's no communion with God either. So we shut down. Like a relationship where there's no room for vulnerability, it just either becomes mechanical or it just shuts down.
I've seen most of my brothers and so many of my friends growing up hate a part of themselves so much because there's a way to show up and act in society or the world. Like, you know, they're medicated, and they're like, I need my medication, right, or I won't be able to show up to work, or all this other stuff. And so
Yeah.
there's a dislike for a part of themselves. And I've seen them and how they dislike certain things in society, which is a reflection of something they dislike about themselves, even if it's expressed differently. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I've seen many of my friends, my brothers, go into relationship after relationship after, and see it like fail because of their intimacy hits a wall because they can't get intimate with themselves. thinking like that's like just you should lock it down, shove it in the basement. So much
Yeah.
of men do that. And so men just cheat intimacy. They cheat it. And so the one thing we've been taught is we desire intimacy, we desire love just as much as the feminine.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so how we cheat is we just have sex. It's like everything's locked under armor except for like our genitals. So it's like, and that's the only thing that
Yeah.
actually gets to be accepted by the woman is that like carnal experience, and everything else is just like walled off.
Yeah.
And of course like the women, like a lot of the feminists trying to like pry open and see what's inside, but it's that's not intimacy. That's not intimacy.
Yeah.
The like who we truly are underneath it all, like who we are, that's like having that even seen and shown is
Mm,
intimacy. Having that received, again, received by her, or really even are received by our own feminine side of ourselves. Received.
mhm.
Like a
Yeah.
mother, unjudgmental, just like come here, like and just like honoring it, or it's just acknowledging it. Just
Yeah.
acknowledging it is a huge thing that so many of my brothers don't do.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is because they have shut down parts of their heart, and
Yeah.
even when we talk about sacred sexuality, like the energy flows, from the feminine, it starts at the heart. It starts here at the heart center, and then it flows down, and we start to do this like orbit or whatever with a partner. But the the way that you actually open and bring the energy upward is through the gate of the heart. The heart is the one that allows the energy to go up. And the heart is a mirror energy to the crown. So
Mm,
you open your heart, you open your crown. And love is the
absolutely.
thing that allows us to open the heart, and vulnerability. So if the energy is flowing through your body, like if you're just having normal sex, like the energy doesn't even get to the heart. It just gets to the heart is shut, and it goes right back down. And that's when, why women don't have orgasms, or why men don't have like a pleasant experience, or it's just a quick mechanical experience,
Yeah.
because they are not allowing themselves to go deeper. And the way that we go deeper is through our hearts, for both. The heart center is the most important thing that needs to open, so that that sexual energy can come through, and it can become a sacred experience through our higher awareness.
And the women want that heart energy. They want that
Yes.
so from the man. They want that heart energy so much. That's what they're craving so much as well. Because when that does happen for the masculine, when he's able to like channel that, it gives back again, it gives back to her so much more powerful, and it cycles through. And again, like the the torus field, right? Like the heart is like the zero center. It's between it's the heart for the chakra center. It's the connection for the lower and the higher. It's the 0 point in the center of the torus field.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine like a big apple for I guess people that don't know the like torus magnetic field. No, I'm not
Yes.
gonna go. Like okay, I was
Yes,
like
Taurus
I
field.
think I know what I'm talking about. Um,
Yes.
and then because when you unlock that, you're able to give back to her even more, like because like she wants to take you, and she want like the one she loves, she wants all of him, she wants to take all of it, and she wants to give that back. It's just this building, this exchange that just goes like it's like a battery charger that that just
Mm-hmm.
stacks power.
And we
And
need the connection. Like
yeah.
if you ask any woman, like what do you want in your relationship? What do you want more of? Usually the answer is connection. I want to feel connected to my partner. I want to feel connected to him. It doesn't matter what he's going through. It doesn't matter where
Yeah.
he is. I want to feel connected. And the connection is made through the heart. If we
Mm.
don't do if we don't open the heart, like if the masculine doesn't open the heart, doesn't matter how open the heart of the feminine is, the amount, like the connection will be so tiny that only a little bit of energy will flow through that. And but instead, if the masculine works on finding his own point of connection with God, to reality, to opening his heart to his own heart, and allowing his heart to be vulnerable, and allowing himself to be vulnerable, and that's why we need that shadow work.
Yeah.
That's why the feminine has been expanding so much because she has been doing the work. We have been
Hmm.
healing. We have been doing all the courses, learning about everything, like going inside, crying, having
You
dark
guys have
nights
been
of the
doing
soul,
a
having this.
great job.
And you guys too, the ones of you who are holding also this beginning of this new era of healing the
Mhm.
feminine. But you know that that's part of the work, and what I have seen with many masculine is that they are so scared of going in there that they would rather just avoid and run, and run from the issue, run from this,
Mhm.
run from that. People who run from commitment, it's because they're running from themselves. They're running from their own demons, their own childhood wounds, their own trauma.
One
And
thing I
that's
will,
that's where
sorry,
the work is. Yeah.
yes, and I will say, like, to even any guy, I don't mean any guy, like anyone who's just interested in spirituality. I mean anyone. It's like to sell it. Like, what's in it for him? You'll probably have some of the best sex of your life if you allow that. You'll like this stuff is funny. It's like, why do it for, our women or anything? Why do it for ourselves? It comes back to you, like, just at least for like just the most superficial sell. It's like it comes back to you in the most crazy ways. It's
Mhm.
it's insane how much
Yeah.
it actually, like, is fruitful and amazing.
Mhm. The thing is that, they have to, and we all have to get to that level of consciousness in our own way, in our own time. Of course, people who go to courses, who study this, who read books, they will get there faster. They will get the tools, and then there's a practice, and then there's the confronting with yourself. So it's a different path for anybody, but anything that is related to consciousness comes from consciousness. So if a person is not conscious, what does that mean? They're not even aware. They're not even aware that there is a disconnect. And many people, and I have seen many masculines who are not even aware that they have these deep wounds that are keeping them from what they would actually want to have, from the love of their life, from whatever they're craving from their heart. But because it has been so blocked, and even that disassociation, like they can say like, no, I don't even want that. And you can read in their energy, like, yes, like I want to be loved and feel loved, because we all want that in the end,
Mhm.
and we all want to be connected. That's who we are. We are one. So, if there's disconnection and people are like, yeah, I'm fine to being disconnected, whatever, it's a front.
Yeah.
It's a front, and it's a lack of consciousness and a lack of maturity. So, but in order for, that boy to transition into the man, there has to be, self-examination. Consciousness has to grow, even if it's slowly. And that consciousness is what you cultivate, it's what we
Yeah.
cultivate. And from there, it's like they say, you open the gates of heaven, you know
Mm.
but it's the same thing for us as individuals in our spiritual path. The more conscious you are, the more you can heal. The more you heal, the more conscious you become. So that it's um a plus on plus effect. It's like
Stacks.
yeah, and it's a benevolent current that you go into. But the first steps, and being willing to see and accept the shadow aspects of ourselves, to accept the negative tendencies, to accept our limitations. That's the hard work, and that's where many people falter. And they're like, "No, I don't have time for this. Let me just live in the 3D," And then, like they say, men. There's like the saying that men that can love start loving money, or men that can't worship feminine start worshiping money, for example. Like they divert,
Yeah.
and you know, okay, I'm fine. I'm not going to have a love of my life or whatever, but I'm going to have a lot of money and success. And so they channel
It's like
all their
Ebenezer
energy.
Scrooge.
Yeah. And then, you see them, and I've seen many men, and I've worked with many people who are extremely successful and rich and whatever, and they feel whole. They feel like like they're like an egg, they're only like this very thin
Hollow.
shell, but inside it's hollow. Yes, but inside it's hollow, and it's still looking for that love from mom, from dad. You know, the wounds are still there. It's just a little child dressed in a CEO costume, you know, and that's, for me, that's where the work is for all of us.
Yeah. I know so many of my brothers, or just so, yeah, so many of my brothers out there are boys in men's body, just boys behind the wheel of a man's body.
Yeah.
And because so many of my brothers don't get to that maturity, again, it is a conscious denial, or even like, let alone just like the ignorance.
Mm.
And I feel we're getting to a period like this year. I've said it in a few of my podcasts or something, where the masculine is, in the recent months, is going through an
Mhm.
initiation.
Yeah.
And I feel that's only going to build because, like you said, the women have been doing, the divine feminine has been doing the work. The men, our hands being forced a little bit. I've said this in a few other things. And because Gaia is not going to tolerate boys can't support women. It's just not conducive. And for the feminine to get any, like, to go further out into the cosmic, they're going to need that anchor. They're going to need that protector. They're going to need that other side of the balance.
Yeah.
And so she's just not going to tolerate. So she's all right. She's all right, guys, come on, your turn. She's like getting them up and getting us like prepping, or like, soldiering us on to like do this. And so
Mm.
we've denied it for too long. And I kind of feel like we're being forced now, because like we're
Mm.
left at very little choices. And I remember even, and so another example of that is like, I remember like a year or so ago, I was doing this like 8/8 Lionsgate meditation portal activation with my friend, and she was like the main channel of this for the group, and I was kind of like holding space, and I was partnered with her to like help and everything. I was mainly like holding space. And so I
Mm.
remember in my mind's eye, I saw like, cause she was guiding us, like, through like, we go into a temple. We went to like Sekhmet, the Egyptian goddess. She's like a
Mhm.
lioness head, into her temple. And I remember in my mind's eye, like, I was like walking behind her, kind of like gently holding her waist, as we like entered. And in my mind's eye, Sekhmet like is at the like the throne head at the end of the room, and she sees me, and she has like a staff, and she like whips this like fire wave at us. It doesn't, she was impervious, but it was directed at me, and I even physically felt this huge wave of heat go over me. And she did that to kind of like, to see if I would scare off, see if I would quake, like, are you actually holding space? And I just kind of like took it and everything. And she was like, and
Mm.
she's like, all right, you're cool. Because she's, a powerful divine feminine goddess like that is not going to fuck around with weak men or boys. She was like, all right, are you
Yeah.
holding space for her? Just like freaked
Yeah.
me out. And then I held my ground, and she's like, all right.
That's
And I remember
amazing.
I was like, that was weird. I was not expecting
Yeah.
that. So
But that's our nature as feminine. And, you know, any conscious woman or women who have done the work, and many times even women who haven't really done so much spiritual, but because of their own guidance from their womb, their mystical side, their priestess side, like their high priestess side, it comes up, and it does test the masculine in some ways, you know?
hmm
Like for me, I've seen it. I've seen um you know, with men, just looking into their eyes and seeing, oh wow, this guy's really scared of me. Like why? You know, like seeing this fear in the eyes. And you know me, like I don't think I'm very scary, you know, like as a person. But
at least not on
for
a platform.
yeah. Oh, and you know, just being my regular self, but it's more an energetic thing where they feel the presence of the goddess. If the goddess is anchored in you, they feel it and they know, oh my God, like this goddess is gonna, you know, cut my head off if I don't do this. And it's not that I, the person, is going to do that, but there is an intrinsic feeling or intuition that the things that fly with other people or with perhaps with other women, they're not going to fly with me. Or
hmm
there's like a deeper wisdom, you know, that that is coming through. And there are some who will receive that, and that's a beautiful thing. You know, even for us as feminine, when we feel received in our oracle and our wisdom and our power, like we see that also with a lot of like very successful women, or you know, women who have everything. We have, you know, we're independent, we have the things that we need. We don't need the masculine to go do it for us. We need presence, we need connection, we need vulnerability, we need to be held and seen as much as we hold and see everything. So it's just about reciprocity in the complementary energy, what we're looking for, you know, and what I think most of the women who have done some of the work are looking for. And it's that reciprocity, that connection, that, you know, and the safety that it brings, you know. And many times when, for me, like when I meet a man, because I can also see many layers, but it's like I can see where the boy is, I can see where, you know, these tendencies, and it's fine, because in the end, you know, we all have all these sorts of things. It's not like a judgment, but you realize how much, you know, this person is actually a man who can hold space, you know, in the interaction, of course. And for me, usually the more men are connected to God and to spirit, like that brings a wisdom to them that nothing else can, you know. And of course, doing the work and connecting with other men and everything, but a man who is, you know, connected to God or to the divine intelligence, who has sacredness in his own life, is far more prepared to receive a sacred relationship, to receive sacred sexuality, to receive a sacred woman, a good woman, you know, than one that isn't, that hasn't breached that gap, that hasn't had that sort of like baptism, you know, that hasn't gone through that rite of passage. Because
baptized
if
by
not,
fire.
it's like you say, it's boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there has also, oh yeah, so no,
you continue.
No, you go.
Okay. Like what you were saying is like a god to meet the goddess. It needs to be equal. It needs to be like a counterbalance. It needs to be the harmonious. And again, it doesn't have to be at first, but at least it you know, depending on the people, the situation, it needs to. There needs to be something that's some kind of something conducive for it. So two things. I know myself that, like, because I love the high priestess, the goddess. Like, oh, I love that in my sister. It's like, yes, more of that. Like that's something that I crave so much, and I love. And I know that in the past that I've noticed, like when I've been like around like other very powerful women, my sisters, you know, soulmates, that I've gotten super intimidated. Not like not like all the time, but there's been moments where like I have felt the fury of a sister of mine. Like, I mean, it is like Brigitte, like an archangel burning down like civilizations. Like it's like I've been down the barrel but not the target, and I've like like, just like wow. And then I've even done things where something simple, like I think it was even that 8-8 portal I was talking about, where I forgot to hit the record button. And so she did like half the channeling, and then as soon as I realized that, I started sweating, and I felt like the fear of God was put into me from like the wrath of her. And I've even been the target to some of these things, and that is like, so I mean, but I feel that's because there was like a little boy, or there was a part of me that like I feel there's been parts of in my evolution as I've actually been exposed, like actually taking the wrath of the divine feminine has actually cured me and actually like tempered me to like, and at certain points I'm like, I'm not afraid of her anymore. Like fuck it. Like I in a more divine way. Like I understand, and it doesn't like trigger my insecurity. It doesn't like there's no like, I'm secure in myself. I know when I'm right, or not right or wrong, but I know when I've like messed up. I know certain things, and I'm open to build and to heal too. It's like it doesn't frighten me anymore as much.
Yeah.
Of course I say that now. knock on wood.
Yeah.
Like, but and the other thing is like, so how when men have these groups, there's another thing, a huge sell for men is like it truly. I mean, you see in like certain animals, like elephants, like the females hang out together, and then it strengthens. Like even like the males hang out together, it strengthens that. And coming up in my men podcast, one of my brothers was talking about how like because especially in this spiritual sect, like it's mostly the divine feminine. And what did he say? He goes, a horse can't learn how to be a horse from a donkey or something like that. It's like being
Mm-hmm.
around more of our like kind of like helps us curate that
Yes.
divinity. And
Yes.
so, and he even not in the podcast, but he was saying how like he's like I've been to men groups and my brothers have gone home and they're women, their girlfriends want to just jump on him right after. And he's just funny and he's like selling things, but it's like the point is like
Yeah.
it cultivates that masculinity. And I know like I have seen my sisters do like women's circle and like that turns me on. Like it really is attractive when they're like in their like witchy, juicy, feminine, like goddesses. I'm like,
Mhm.
yes. So I can only assume the complementary that when men are in their like masculine, like in their like divinely, like their men godhood, that's
Yeah.
only going to benefit them in the relationships with their sisters, our sisters.
Of course. And that's why, the women are so attracted to the like the knight archetype, like when they say the knight in shining armor. But it's not because of the only because of, programming or whatever, but it's because of
Yes.
the honor. Like the
Mm.
knights are honorable. And they like even if you think about the Templar knights, and that's why I work with them sometimes in my divine masculine meditations, because there was a time and there have been men who have been preserving the divine masculine teachings,
Absolutely.
just like there have been the priestesses who've been, preserving the divine feminine teachings. But there's also the descendants of the Deshwa line, and the families of light. And the one thing that they have in common, like even if you see like samurais or gladiators or knights or like
Vikings,
if
like yeah.
figure Vikings or Robin
Uh,
Hood or whatever, but all those like attractive male
even modern soldiers too.
archetypes. Yeah, even that. But it's what attracts women to them. It's the honor. It's the honor code. So it's a fact that this person is willing to risk their life to save someone else. It's the
Mm.
fact that they have rules and standards and virtues that they honor. And one of them is honoring the feminine, honoring the children, honoring, whatever they honor. But finding a
Yeah.
man of honor in this day and age is not that
I
easy.
wouldn't hold your breath.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
I hope we start finding them more. But
This is
why
a
is
call
that?
to
It's
arms to my
because
brothers.
yeah, but it's like, I remember I was with my partner and I we had just had like an argument or something. And and then I went to see a movie and it was a movie that I really like. I forgot the title, but it's about these knights and the honor and they're willing to sacrifice their lives and it's I don't know, maybe I'll remember which one it is.
If you
But
send it to me, I might link it, or not link it, but
yes,
like
I remember Morgan Freeman is in the movie and he ends up being the bad guy. But anyway, it's like this thing and when I was seeing it, I was crying. And I always cry like in those moments where like there's honoring of the elder, of the children, of women, of themselves. There's like a
mm,
self-respect and a self like a preservation of what is sacred and that they will fight to death for that,
yes,
and not, in modern ways, not that, I would want anyone to like self-sacrifice to death or whatever, but it's the energy of that. And I remember after I saw that movie, my partner asked me, "Oh, and what did you do?" And I was like, "Yeah, I saw a movie about knights and about honor." And he was like, "Oh, because I'm not a knight and I'm not honorable, or what? Or what?" Like, like
little
project.
boy.
And yeah, and I was like, "Well, a little bit,
Well, now that you say
Um,
it,
yeah, but it's like that.
yeah.
that tradition and having like an elder
Mm.
to guide you through some of the things, and I think the reason why the sacredness is rarely seen in that masculine embodiment is because they themselves don't feel that they are sacred. So if I
Yes.
don't feel that I'm sacred and worthy of the feminine, of love, of honor, of whatever, if I don't feel like I'm worthy, then I don't give that value and that honor to other things. It's impossible, you know? So that's the, like, for me, the deeper wound. How can you as a man restore yourself to sacredness? Like, how can you become whole and restore the sacredness within you, within your body, the sacredness of what you eat, of what you see, of what you watch, like, and these are just like the basics of self-love, you know but so many men out there, they don't even think about that. It's like, automatic pilot, this survival, money. It doesn't matter if I'm killing myself, if I'm not eating, if I'm not sleeping, if I have to take pills to
Try to
whatever.
provide.
Yeah. And then there's so much emphasis on the other hand on, like, building the body and being like looking like this. But if it's not integrated,
Yeah.
you can be as strong as you want physically, but if you're not strong in your heart, if you're gonna run in the first time that you see me shed a tear, that's not strong.
Yeah. It's not attractive
That's
either.
weak. No. And we as the feminine, we carry a lot of the emotional level of the relationship, and we can show emotion, but for us it's not so much of what's happening behind the emotion, but when the emotion is happening, it's like a little volcano or a
Hmm.
tornado or an eruption. And the only thing we need is for the masculine to be like, I'm here,
Yeah.
we're fine, we're gonna make it. Just come here into the shelter with me, come into my arms. It's all okay. We're gonna
I can
figure it
take
out.
it. I'm secure enough. I
Yeah.
can take you. And
And I'm not gonna run away, and disappear.
yeah, I'm here for you. I'm showing up for you to be here. We will get through this together.
Yeah.
So without going further, that was actually the whole first episode of this podcast series was how the masculine can better hold the feminine, all about that. So I'm not going to
Mm,
rehash that.
love it.
I'm just going to see episode 1 for all of that. Um, but it's I even saw like this meme that I liked. It was like this like knight relentless fighting these other, and it was just like the unwavering feeling to die for what you believe in kind of thing, because that
Yeah.
kind of still exists. But maybe not even just die, but like it's I think that knight energy exists, and so how do I want to say this? Is it such a important thing that drives our consciousness is when a man desires something and believes in something so much. I mean, like the sword to die on. I mean, I think I've even heard it like put as like the cross. Can you be that Jesus died on? Could be seen like a sword in the ground? It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's a very passionate thing without like without the dramatic ending of death actually, but like that energy though is very attractive, and
Yeah.
we don't have to see it. So I, of course, I'm called MC Warrior the Light. How I carry the warrior energy is not like warring. I don't go to war. I'm not like fighting or hurting or killing. It's just I remember reading like the indigenous Americans and Native Americans of what one of their definitions of a warrior. I don't know if it's accurate, but it's just whatever these words were resonated with me, and how it was strong of a heart. How he would take care of the elderly. He would take care of children. He would care for the women. He would just his love was his sword, his compassion, his nurturance, his like, and even if that had to take up arms to defend, it wasn't like he fought as much as his love of being a warrior expressed itself from the heart in as many
Mm-hmm.
ways as it needed to be expressed, and that was super super strong.
And for me, that's the commitment to life itself. Like all spiritual beings, and especially like when we think about the warrioress, like for me, it was also like when I started to really become of service and doing spiritual work, and even before, like the moment that I committed to me, to my life, to God, to the life that I was given, and the moment that I committed to make my life sacred and to see it as a sacred gift that it is, to honor it as such, everything in my life started to change.
Mm.
And one of the things that we hear the most from women that they want from men is commitment, right? But it's not just the idea of like what men think, oh my God, I'm going to get trapped and we're just going to be with them and it's going to be boring. It's just the commitment is I want my partner to be committed to his life. I want my
Ooh,
partner to be committed to his purpose,
that hit me
you
so
know?
hard when you said that. Like I jolted. That's yes.
Yeah. I want him to be committed to everything, like to his own life, to what he is and brings to life, you know? And in that, the commitment to a woman is the easiest thing ever. When you have mastered your own commitment to your life, to who you are, to what your purpose is, and you take the responsibility because it's a huge responsibility. It's saying from now on, I'm not the victim anymore. Whatever happened to me, whatever I went through, I'm not the victim. I am the carrier of life, and I am, carrying my life in a sacred and an honorable way. When you do that, and that's the first step, everything else becomes sacred. And you can really discern a sacred woman, a woman that is going to further that sacredness and that commitment that you already made to yourself. And then it's so much easier to choose. For me, seeing a man that is committed to himself and to the sacredness of life, that sees life as sacred, as a gift from God every day, for me, that's one of the most like beautiful things to see and the most attractive things in a way as well. Because it's someone who
Mm.
is not just honoring something or someone or pretending to honor women or pretending to honor this, someone who's committed in honoring themselves, their life, their every breath, their every day. And then everything else, you can see that they honor absolutely everything else. And there is no doubt. And that kind of man makes any woman feel seen, safe, heard, because we are life too. We are creation. Even men who honor nature, if you see that it's a man who honors nature, who honors animals, who honors life in whatever way, you know that they are going to honor you because they already have that deep commitment within themselves, you know. So I think that's like that's a pretty amazing place to start, and also for us as women, honoring ourselves, honoring our bodies, honoring our wombs, reconnecting to all of our femininity and honoring our lives and not giving up, like not saying, oh, I throw in the towel, oh, this is too hard, oh, like whatever, it's going to take years. No, like your life now. Where is your commitment to the now, to yourself? Where is your commitment to life? Where is your commitment to love, to magic, to whatever you want? But first and foremost, to life, and to the awe and wonder that life is. And that's something that the warrior and the warrioress do. That's something that the shamans do. They know that every single second on this life is a gift. And they honor
Mm.
that as such. So your commitment becomes like, it's like a lightning, like a rock, like it's unmovable, it's unshakable. And when you're there, you can amplify your foundation, you can amplify your whole life, you can create as much as you want, but being in that path of commitment to yourself. And I think most of the things that men suffer today nowadays, especially like young men, but even older men, like you can see men in their 40s, 50s, like, I'm not looking for anything serious. Like that lack of commitment is a reflection, like lack of commitment with women is the reflection of a lack of commitment within themselves, to their life purpose, to everything. to spirituality. And we need to take charge of our lives. That's a self-empowered being, not blaming everybody else. And, like, if you want to be empowered, you have to take charge and take the responsibility and commit. Once you commit, you've done the hard part. Then everything starts to come in a different wavelength. Everything starts to have a different meaning. And it's beautiful and it's powerful. But as long as we're running away from commitment, from facing our fears, from facing who we are, from facing our deepest, darkest corners, our demons, our dragons, or everything, as long as we're running, we are not being empowered. We're disempowering ourselves. And the way to turn that around is to face whatever comes at you. If you receive like a beautiful flower and a butterfly, receive it. If you receive a crash, receive it. If something, whatever is coming to you, your capacity to respond in a committed way towards life will elevate you immediately. And that's when you're working with God, with the divine, or with the highest aspect of yourself, for those who don't believe or like the word God or the divine.
I love everything you just said. I'm just like sitting here soaking in all that energy. That was so good. Amen.
Oh man. Yeah. We can do it. We just need to empower ourselves, and like you say, empower our brothers, empower our sisters, and continue to do the sacred work, because we do have ripple effects. And this podcast, having people listen to this, like, if it opens one heart, if it opens one mind, like, that's enough. Like, that's amazing. That's so much, already. So I thank you too for for doing this and for bringing this conversation and for having us here. So
Absolutely. Thank you for being on here so much, Lana. Always a pleasure. And actually, if before we depart or end this episode,
yes.
I got the download for this episode and kind of the rough themes that we'd be talking about. And you're going to launch a new course here pretty soon. I didn't realize that. Do you want to like shamelessly sell that? And for any who be interested on this topic and conversation.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, it's a new course, but it's a course that I taught. It's a new e-course that it will be available on my website. And it's basically from my series of self-love programs that I have on my website. And this one is about sacred sexuality. It's an introduction to sacred sexuality. And it's a course that has like 6 classes, and each class is like 2 hours or something. And you have like audio and PDFs and things that go along, manuals. But it's basically for anyone. It doesn't matter, your gender, and it's for both feminine and masculine to reconnect to their bodies. We do a lot of healing trauma from the body. Like, we cleanse first, like, all the layers that are keeping us from truly connecting to our temple. And then we start to build on the self-loving practices, healing somatically, healing, and also, I give healings in every class, and there are healing audios there to like really have a very like profound journey, recommendations of teachings, teachers. We talk about the feminine orgasm, and we expand on that. We also talk about the masculine and holding the seed. Why not? Like we go into a lot. It's not so much of like the practical, but it's a very beautiful place to start. Getting the idea of what sacred sexuality is, and to start practicing if you're alone on yourself, and if not with a partner. So, and that's going to be coming up soon, like in a couple of weeks. I'm preparing that right now, actually.
Beautiful. Yeah. Whenever it's out, I'll link it below here.
Yes.
Cool. So thank you so much, Lana, for being on
thank you,
here.
Maddie. It was a pleasure. Anytime. And I hope many, many people find you
Thank you so much.
the best with YouTube land.
And thank you all for being here on Coffee Talk with MC Warrior the Light, discussing spirituality and shit. Lana, healer, medicine woman, MC Warrior the Light out.